Alright, this is going to be the last video for Chapter 3. And I'm going to go over this little competition that was going on between Bob and Kent. They were two programmers that were supposed to come up with a snippet of code that would most efficiently update a contact list for a cell phone with the smallest amount of memory needed as possible. So we're looking for efficiency. And we also need it to function properly. But in Bob's method, he wanted to use a contact list, object contact list, that's our object right here. Public class contact list, string ID, string name, string address, and string phone. Those are the only attributes that contact list does. So he uses the word contact list to refer to the object at hand, and he uses this array symbol, the two straight brackets with nothing in it, which actually is for index numbers of indexes to go inside of. CA is the reference that he's going to use for contact list, and probably for contact list array, because this is an array. And he's going to set it equal to new contact list with 10 elements inside. So he's creating an array that can hold 10 contacts, basically 10 contact elements. He uses a while loop. While x is less than 10, CAX, meaning whatever x is, will be talking about whatever index in the array. So if x starts off as 0, then CA index 0 equals new contact list. That creates the object address that this reference points to. CA index 0 is a reference, and it will be pointing to a new contact list address on the heap. Then x equals x plus 1 bumps our counter of x up from 0 to 1. You go back to the while loop. Now, as long as 1 is less than 10, do it all over again. And this time, CA with the index of 1 will be equal to new contact list. So now the second element in the CA array will be set to its own address. And then after all this loop is done, this is where after the loop you're supposed to do complicated contact list updating stuff. So you can create the name, you can create the address, the phone number, and the ID, or you can change it, or you can delete it. Now here in Kent's method, he's not using an array, he's just using a single reference variable, because his idea is that if he has less reference variables, he'll have less use of memory, so it'll be more efficient. So he's got the same while loop while x is less than 10, and he's using the one single reference variable set to a new contact list. So this ref C is set to an actual address on the heap for contact list, and then he takes x equals x plus 1 to increment your counter up. So now x is 1, so while 1 is less than 10, he's going to do it again. This time ref C equals new contact list, it's going to get a new address. A new address is going to go into the variable called ref C. So each time this loops, it gets a new address. The only funky part about that is when you get out of the loop, you don't have 10 different contacts. You have this pointer, ref C, pointing to whatever the last address was created in this loop, which means that if you want to actually create 10 names, 10 addresses, 10 IDs, and 10 phone numbers, you have to do all that stuff inside the while loop, because you have to use if conditions. If x equals 0, then ref C dot name equals whatever. And then when you bump x up to 1 and you go up here, then you have to do if x equals 1, then ref C dot name equals, then you have to do another name. Oh, well, the only bad part about that is that when you want to refer to each of these different contacts outside of that while loop, you're not going to be able to do it. You have to do everything inside. And also, the rule of references and objects are that in order for an object with an object address to stay alive, it must be pointing to a reference has to be pointing to it. You can't have an address with basically, if you were to think of the reference as a person, and you were to think of the address as the home. The home is alive as long as there's a person affiliated with it. So if you think of ref_c as a person equals new contact list, and we're going to get a brand new address on the heap, then that address, whatever that address is, has a person connected to it with the equal sign. That house is alive. Once the reference leaves and goes into a new address, that house is abandoned. There is no person, no reference attached to it, connected to it. So what happens when you have an abandoned house? Well, the dust piles up, critters might move in if there's any way for them to get in. Thieves will probably break the windows out to see what they can get inside. Basically, the house crumbles. Well, what happens with Java is once there is no reference at all pointing to an address, that address is now eligible for garbage collection because it is being thought of as not being used. And so just like an abandoned house, the city might decide to destroy it as it becomes an eyesore. So with an abandoned object on the heap, same thing happens. It's eligible for garbage collection as long as there's no reference attached to it, pointing to it, and it will be eradicated at some point in time. So you can't count on creating all these different addresses in this while loop if this ref_c is only one person, if you will, and it just points from this address, and then in the next loop it points to a different address. It's going to just basically be one person moving to different addresses, and all the ones that are not having a reference pointing to them will be abandoned and eligible for garbage collection. So this is not a safe way to do this. I have to put this on pause because I have a timer going off. Hold on. All right, I'm back, and hopefully I haven't lost my train of thought. I want to show the whole code that I created for Bob's method and the whole code that I created for Kent's method, and show you how even though you can create a different contact name through each loop, like for instance, if x is equal to 0, then ref_c.name equals this, ref_c.address equals this, ref_c.id equals this, ref_c.phone equals this. Even though I can create it in the while loop, once this loop moves on to the next iteration, ref_c is going to point to a whole new address. And even though my output is going to show all these contacts because it's done in the loop, without a variable pointing to an object address, it's going to be eligible for garbage collection, and I have no idea when that data will just disappear. So this is not a good method. Even though you can make the output show, you don't know how long that will live, because I have no idea when an object goes into the garbage collectible heap. I have no idea when it actually disappears. Is it a day? Is it 3 hours? Is it 3 weeks? I have no idea, but it's not going to stay. All right, let's so this again is our object, public class contact list. It's got 4 attributes: ID, name, address, and phone. Let's look at Bob. Let's look at what I came up for Bob. I basically took his array idea and his while loop, and I added everything else I needed to add so that I'd get proper output. Okay, class Bob. Public static void main string args execution statement. If I don't have this, I can't run my program. You won't see anything happen. Int x equals 0. This is going to create my x counter that's going to work in my while loop. And since it starts off at 0, this while loop, 0 less than 10 will be true, and it will do the loop. Here, contact list, and there's that array symbol, CL equals new contact list, and there's that array symbol again with a number 10 inside, which this means contact list array CL equals new contact list with 10 elements in it. Maybe if I can slide this in a little more, put it over here, so you can see what I took out of Bob's method. What I highlighted here on the right is the first thing that I took out of Bob's method by creating that array of type, not string, not int, of type contact list, which again is right here. It's an object of type contact list. Okay, so I also want to print out a little information uh, in my output window right here. I just want to print out a little string that says below you will see the memory addresses allocated for 10 contact list objects. And of course we use the system.out.print command to do that. And since this is a string, all of this is put in double quotes, and everywhere you see a \n, that just moves me down to the next line. So \n goes down one line, two \n's goes down a line, and a space if I want to put a space in between stuff. Now here's the while loop. This is Bob's while loop. While x is less than 10, he has CAX equals new contact list, and I have CAX equals new contact list. This is a very important statement here because it means that as we create each element of the array, index 0 element, index 1 element, index 2 element, as we create those, we are setting it equal to new contact list, to a new one of these. It's going to have its own little object address on the heap in which to save this ID, name, address, and phone number information. It's just like our little house address here. Our house address for the first element is going to live at this particular contact list place, and we can do these things in there. We can alter these things in there. Then I take system.out.println, and I want to put CL index X, just so you see the value of CL index X. CL being a contact list array reference, I want you to see the address location for each one of these elements that we're creating, so that I have it in the while loop. And then I take my x equals x plus 1, and that's what he did over here. So this system.out.println CL index X is something extra I added for my own output so that I could visualize what this code is doing. So here's the little easy while loop that he wanted here. So I did I created his array, I did his same while loop, and next do complicated contact list updating stuff. And how I did that was I used whatever X could possibly be, which the first element is index 0. I took the reference of the array CL, which we created up here, index 0, which is going to be talking about our very first array, and I used the dot operator and I pulled name right out of here. You can do this in any order you want. I could do the ID first, I could do the phone number first or address first, but at this particular thing I happen to choose name. And I gave it a name. I set it to a name. Since I used CLX equals new contact list, that means that CL0 was created as a new contact list. It was able to, now it's able to pull out any of these attributes. So we're going to pull out name and we're going to set it to Clancy. Then we got CL index 1 dot name, and we're going to set the second element's name to Jason. CL index 2 dot name, we're going to set that to Kathy. So this is what we're doing. We're following the instructions. Do contact list updating stuff here. We're doing it outside of the loop. And we're having no problem doing it too, by the way. Once you see the output, there's no problems. I do the same thing for all of my elements that I've created, which I didn't actually create 10. I only did 0, 1, and 2, which means I created information for the first 3 elements to try to keep this video small. But I gave them all IDs. I gave them the first 3 letters of their name and the year. So for CL0.ID is going to go for this CL0.name, which we're talking about Clancy. So Clancy has an ID of CLA 2016. I did the same thing for CL1.ID. Jason, first 3 letters of his name and the year. So I gave him Jace 2016 an ID. And the CL2.ID, we're talking about Kathy here. So her ID is CAT 2016. I set that. All of these are my manual settings. And I had to do the same thing for address. So the first element, who is Clancy, who has this ID, CLA 2016, also has this address, and he also has this phone number. So basically this is just copy and paste. The only thing I'm doing is I'm grabbing a different attribute from the contact list object and I'm setting it to something that makes sense to what I'm looking for. If I'm setting an address, I want to set it to something that looks like an address. If I'm setting it to a phone number, then I'm going to give the data something that looks like a phone number. Pretty simple. Then I also want to spit out a little more information. I want to prove to you that these things that I set in memory, in their particular memory locations, that you can actually spit them out. So I have system.out.println, a couple of spaces, your newly created contact names are, a couple more spaces, and I have CL index 0.name. It's not going to spit that out. It's going to spit out the value for CL index 0.name, which is Clancy. Clancy, which is located at heap address, and then I added CL index 0. Just the value of CL index 0 itself, without using a dot operator, without asking for any attributes from the contact list object. Just what is CL index 0 anyway? It's going to be the address that's going to show up there. Then I'm going to get a couple more backslash n's for a couple to go down a couple more lines. Then I'm going to use CL index 1.name. Same thing that I did for this whole section. Now I'm going to do that from here to here. CL1.name, which CL1.name up here is Jason, which is located at heap address. Now I want to know what's the heap address for CL index 1. That's going to show up. And the heap address for CL index 1, when we created CL up here, we created it as an array of object contact list. So when we say CL with this array symbol here with nothing in it, wait, where am I? I'm sorry, not with nothing in it, with whatever index we're working with. It's going to start off with the name of the object, which here is contact list, and then it's going to have a letter number combination, which is just a code that tells us where this information is going to be stored. What memory address is it attached to? So I did that one to there, and then I said CL1.name, which is located at heap address CL1, plus then I go down a couple lines and I do the same thing for CL2. CL2.name, which is Kathy. CL2.name is Kathy, which is located at heap address CL2. I'm sorry, CL2. So I did it for CL index 1. I did it for CL index 0. I'm sorry, I did it for CL index 0. I did it for CL index 1. I did it for CL index 2. Then I have another system.out.println, which is going to give me a couple of spaces. It's going to give me some dashes and another space, the word heap, and then CL0, which again is just going to give me the heap address, plus go down a line, plus the value for CL0.ID, down a new line, plus the value of CL0.name. Then I'm going to concatenate an apostrophe S addresses, so whatever this name is, if it's Kathy or Clancy or whoever else, Kathy, Clancy, or Jason, will have apostrophe S. So Kathy's addresses plus CL0.address, go down a line, the word phone, and then the value for CL0.phone. And I do that for all of this is for all the information for the first array element, which is CL index 0, and then I do it for all the information for the second array element, which is CL index 1, and I do it for the last one, CL2, because I only created information for 3 contacts out of the possible 10. And here's the end of the main and end of Bob. So let me go to, of course, my output window. This is going to use command prompt. I'm already at the path that these Java files are in. This bob.java file. I'm going to compile it right now by typing javac bob.java. Now Java's going to look at this and make sure there's no problems, and if you get the path, then there were no compilation problems. So now I'm just going to type in Java Bob, enter. Now I'm going to run it. So let's see what all good stuff we got. Starting at the top of the code, system.out.print, before I even did the while loop, below you will see memory addresses allocated for 10 contact list objects, and that's actually what the first line of code that you see right here. Then we do this while loop here, as long as x is less than 10, which it is because we created it at 0. While x is less than 10, CL, whatever x is, which is 0 right now, CL with the index of 0 is going to be created. Our first element is going to be created, equals new contact list. Now it's going to system.out.println what the value of CLX is. What is the value at this point? It starts off at 0, so what is the value of CL index 0? So in this while loop, this is what I'm going to print out. Each iteration is going to show me a new address. The first one, which is when x is 0, is contact list, the name of the object, which is this object, at 106D69C. Then when x becomes 1, while x is 1 is less than 10, then CL1 equals new contact list, system.out.println, what's the value for CL1? Then we get this, contact list at 52E922. You see how each iteration of the loop gives us a brand new address to point to. And this is going to be a brand new reference. So it's not just a bunch of new addresses with only one reference. As we create a new address, this is going to be a brand new reference. It starts off as CL0, then it goes to CL1, then it goes to CL2, CL3, CL4, CL5, CL6, CL7, CL8, CL9, and then when it goes one more and turns to 10, well, 10 is less than 10 is a false statement, so it will not do this loop anymore. So it won't make any more addresses. It only makes addresses from CL index 0 to CL index 9 because of our condition. So here we've created all these addresses with these indexes to our array. So we've created elements that point to addresses. Each address has an element that's pointing to it. Now here's the do contact list updating stuff here. Now that we've created all of these layers of our array and set each one of them to its own address on the heap, we can say CL index 0. We can use the dot operator and pick out whatever we want out of contact list. Here we're going to pick out name, and we're going to set it to Clancy. We're going to do the same thing to CL index 1 dot name. We're going to set that to Jason. CL index 2 dot name, we're setting that to Kathy. I do the exact same process for ID, and ID I use for CL0. For CL0, the name was Clancy, and this ID I want to come up with is the first 3 letters of the name and the current year. So CL1 will be based on CL1.name's information. The first 3 letters of the name, JAS, and 2016. And lastly, CL2.ID is CAT 2016, based on this. And then I do the same idea for the address, CL0.address, and I made up an address, CL1.address, I made up an address, CL2.address, I made up an address. I did the same thing for phone. So I gave the impression of a string value to whatever attribute I was trying to set in my contact list object. Okay, so I have created all the basic information for 3 contacts in this contact list, and I did it after the while loop, which is what was requested. Then I'm going to use system.out.println, and it says I have a couple lines I go down, and it says your newly created contact names are, and that's where you see this, your newly created contact list names are. And then I use the value for CL index 0 dot name, Clancy. Then I add the words which is located at heap address, which is located at heap address, plus the value of CL index 0, CL index 0, just the value of that. None of the attributes of the objects, just where is this address? Clancy, which is located at heap address contact list at 106D69C. Then I go down a couple of lines and I do the same thing for CL1. CL1.name, which is located at heap address, plus CL index 1, couple of spaces, plus CL2.name, plus which is located at heap address, plus CL index 2, plus a space. And that gives you all three of these lines right here. And if you notice, Clancy, heap address 106D69C, go back up here to these 10 addresses we created, 106D69C. So they definitely are showing that they're linked properly, haven't changed or anything. Now I'm going to go down here to this little tidbit of output right here. Let me go down a couple. Here I've got system.out.println. I go down a couple of lines and I have some dashes, and then I go down another line and I have the word heap in a space. And so here you see heap, so you see the dashes, then you see heap, and then I have plus CL0. So now I want to look at the address again. So now I have contact list at 106D69C. Same thing we've been looking at. Plus a new line, so we go down one, plus the value of CL index 0.id. So here you see CLA 2016, plus we go down a new line, plus the value for CL index 0.name. You see the name Clancy, but then you also see plus apostrophe S addresses. So Clancy turned into Clancy's addresses. And then we concatenate the CL0 dot address 84756 memory lane. Plus we go down a line and put the word phone, and then we have plus CL index 0 dot phone. So then you have the word phone, and then you have the phone that we gave 123, 123, 1234. So this little snippet right here did this dashes with heap for Clancy's ID, Clancy's address, and Clancy's phone number. And I do the same thing, exact same thing. It's a copy and paste. The only thing I changed was the index inside of these brackets. I changed every 0 when I got to here to 1. And lastly, this is another copy and paste, and everywhere there was a 1, I changed it to 2. So that basically shows how by using Bob's idea of creating a while loop using an array of the object and then creating the new element inside the while loop, that once you do that, you have both a reference and a new address. So when you get out of there, you can create all the names and IDs and addresses and phone numbers that you want, up to 10. If you try to create something that's bigger than the array that you created, it'll give you an out of bounds error. So now we've showed off Bob. Let's look at poor Kent's thing. All right, where's Kent? Right here. Now, Kent's method. I start off with class Kent, public static void main string args, just like with Bob. Int x equals 0 to create a counter, set it 0, just like I did with Bob. And I had to set contact list. This is a little bit different. He initially had just contact list ref C. That was going to be the reference variable that was going to hold all this information. And he had his he didn't have equals null at all. He just had the just like this shows, contact list ref C semicolon. I kept getting references may not be initialized error message until I set it to null, which means initially when ref C starts off in the code, it is set to nothing. It's not pointing to an address. And once I did that, I stopped getting that error message. I use system.out.print, go down a line and see the words contact list names are, and then go down a couple more lines. That's something I added. But then I created this while loop. I said while x is less than 4 because I only created 4 contacts in this list, and I didn't want to get a bunch of other output that was just saying null reference. I could actually do that and show you what that looks like. When you say you're going to create this many loops, but you don't actually set any information to it, I can show you what that looks like. So I'll go ahead and put while x is less than 10 like Kent did, and ref C equals new contact list just like Kent did. But when I just put x equals x plus 1 and not all this stuff in here, when I tried to do this stuff in here outside of the while loop, it wasn't going to let me do that. So I thought, well, I at least want to create these contacts so that I can see the output. And I couldn't do it outside of the loop, but I could do it in the loop as the loop was going in its circle. This still is not going to be the right way to do this code, but I wanted to show you the output so that you would understand why this is not the right way to do it. I guess I could move this over so you can get a glimpse of how some of this output looks as we go through the code. I want to CLS so I can clear out of this, and I want to Java C Kent this time, kent.java. Hit enter. Let's hope it compiles cleanly. It does. So Java Kent. All right, this is the output we have. Remember, in the while loop, x starts off as 0. So everywhere you see x highlighted down here, the first time it goes through this loop, it's 0. So when it says if x is equal to 0, that's a true statement. So then it's going to do what's in the curly braces. It's going to take ref C, it's going to use the dot operator and grab ID from right here, because we're creating a contact list object. So we get to take this and do something with it. And I did the same thing I did with Bob. I set it to the first 3 letters of a name and the date. So then if x is equal to 0, which it still is, I have ref C dot name equals Lisa. So I set the name while I was at it. And if x is equal to 0, which it still is, I went on ahead and gave it a fake address. And if x is 0, which it is, I gave it a fake phone number. So I set all the contact information in if statements based on what my loop iteration was. Okay, that means that the first go through the loop, since x is 0, it ignores this one, and it ignores this one, and it ignores this last one that I created because I didn't make 10 of them. Then it gets down to here, system.out.println, the word heap. This is our output. Now we get to see our output, the word heap. Well, no, first of all, I had system.out.print contact list names are. That's up here. Then I created all the information for those contacts in the while loop while x was 0. And then I put out the word heap plus ref C. So heap, now I have that address. Ref C in this case is the very first iteration, gives me contact list 106D69C. Then I put the words, I went down to a new line, put the words ID in a space, and I added the value for ref C ID. Well, since all of this has to do with all this information that I created, all of this information is what's going to spit out. Name Lisa is at loop iteration. Where is it? At loop iteration x equals plus x. What's the value of x? Well, it's still 0. We're still going through the first loop. So name Lisa at loop iteration x equals 0. Go down the line at address location plus refc.address at address location 1315 capstone. Go down the line the word phone plus refc.phone phone 222-333-4444. Again, all this is this information that I created as long as x was 0. So it shows in the while loop that I have created a contact, which I did. And it increments x right here, so now x is not 0, it's 1. It goes back up here while 1 is less than 10, that's true. So this is what happens now. The one variable refc was pointing to this address. Now it's going to point to a new address. So when I run, it's going to look as if x equals 0, false. Is x, it's going to look at this one, is x equals 0, false. It's going to skip all of these because it's going to test all these conditions. When it's false, it's going to ignore all this crap, and then it's going to go down as x equal to 1. Yes, it is. So then it's going to change refc ID. refc ID up here was LIS 2016. Now it's going to be changed to SHA 2016. So the same reference used to point to an address here and have this information. Now it's pointing to a different address location and changing all of the information. It's no longer pointing to this one, but it did spit this out because I did want it to. I spit it out by using this. But then it went to the next iteration of the loop, and now it's changing everything to this. And then when it gets down here, it's going to spit this information out. It's going to increment the loop. It's going to come back up here. It's going to go to a new contact list address. refc is now going to point to a new address. It's the same variable, but it's not going to point to the address here that it created. It's not going to point to this address. Now it's going to point to this address and create all this information. And then it's going to spit it out. It's going to increment. It's going to come up here, and it's going to do it all over again. And it's going to spit out this information because now x is going to be equal to that. And then it's going to spit that out. That's why we have heap contact list at this address, heap contact list at this address, contact list at this address. So all these contact lists are different, but that's because when we started the loop, we pointed refc to a new address. We didn't give a new address a unique name. So it's like this person was pointing at this house, then he was pointing or living at this house, then he was living or pointing to this house, or whatever you want to, however you want to think about it. But once he was stayed at this house, pointing to this house, all these addresses that were created are now eligible for garbage collection because nothing is pointing to them anymore. We've been there, done that. We only have one reference variable, and it's only pointing to one address at a time. So even though I see the output here, the only thing that's not eligible for garbage collection is this last one, the end of this loop, because this is still pointing to something based on what this loop was. Actually, because this is in the while loop, once you're out of the while loop, I don't even know if that makes even the last thing eligible for garbage collection or not. I'm not really clear on that. But eventually we jump out of the loop because we are only creating data for these 4 contact things. And because I changed this from 4 to 10, when I run this, there should be some null pointers. Here we have Lisa, Sean, Jeremy, Christina. I set information for those, but then it went on ahead and looped this many more times and gave us this many more addresses. It pointed to this, but I didn't set the information. It went to the top of the while loop, and then it created a new one, but I didn't set any information there. So that's why you have ID null, name null, loop at iteration x equals 5, at address location null, phone null. Nothing is created in there. And it does that all the way to at loop iteration x equals 9. So I got all this extraneous information that because I didn't create the contacts with this, you get all these nulls. So if I change this while x is less than 4 and save it and rerun this, I won't have all those things null. Instead, contact names are, here's the Lisa one, here's the Sean one, here's the Jeremy one, and here's the Christina one. This right here is how I want to prove to you that you can't do anything outside of this while loop with these contacts. So maybe you were able to output it, but unless you go in this very while loop, you can't access this information anymore out of the loop. And I used here's the end of the while loop. System.out.println. I got a bunch of squiggles because I wanted to be able to visually see where the new output was in aspect to where my code was. And then I went down a line, so I got these squiggles and then down a line, plus refc. I want to know what the value of refc. What's the address of refc at this point? And it says contact list at 10DEA4E, which happens to match the very last while loop contact information that I created, this last address, which means this address is not being pointed to for Jeremy. This address is no longer being pointed to for Sean, and this address is no longer being pointed to for Lisa. So since these addresses are no longer being pointed to, they're not being referred to, there's no reference set equal to, all of them are eligible for garbage collection, which means that you created them, but it's not going to matter because this information's not going to stick. The only thing that's going to stick is the very last thing that we created at this address because we pointed refc to it, we have an address to it, we set the ID to it, the name, the address, and the phone. And this is all outside of the loop. But I still am kind of wondering how long this last one will even last. How long will this one last? Is this permanently addressed, or is it just temporary because it's in a while loop and at some point in time even this last one will disappear? I'm not sure. I hate to even put this in the video that I'm not sure, but I'm actually not. So this is why this is a bad idea. Don't create your contacts with one reference variable. You have multiple information. Do it in an array. Use an array so that you can do it the way Bob did it, because this way right here, once a reference is no longer pointing to a contact, an object address, it's eligible for garbage collection, and so this information will be eradicated at some point in time by the Java virtual machine. A lot of people think that, oh, okay, I got this to output, so it must be right. But when you understand that objects must have a reference variable pointing to it in order to remain active, then you see a whole new set of possible problems if you don't understand that. Yeah, end of main, end of class. So I showed this entire way to do how Kent thought he could do it, but it actually wasn't going to work. So Bob's method here was supreme. If you need to update contact lists, use his array and while loop, and inside the while set the CAX to new contact list.